how do you adjust your side mirrors? Just tell me, you don't need to do it.
Side mirrors, I have the stinking.
Can you actually move them?
Oh no, this one's the steering wheel one.
So usually side mirrors
here.
with
It's
buttons
here.
on the side.
Yeah, the button's here.
Alright. So that's all the questions that I'm gonna ask you.
Yeah, I've never been asked those ones before.
Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. In this video we are going to be looking at a mock driving test that Eddie did at Logan Driving Test Center. So what I'm going to do in this mock test is I'm gonna be watching the mock test and I'm gonna be pausing and talking through some things that I think Eddie would have done very well, and also pointing out any mistakes that Eddie would have made, and hopefully some of you guys watching this video can learn something out of this video, especially if you are going for your practical driving test. I'm sure you can benefit from watching this video. In the previous videos, I usually talk through what someone is doing as they do it, or maybe just before they do it. This time around I'm gonna be kind of like be doing the opposite. I'm gonna watch the video and then I'll pause the video and then I'll be talking through maybe what they did well, and maybe I'll also talk through what I think maybe they would have done much better, maybe mistakes that they've made, and hopefully you guys can benefit from this video. If you are new to the channel, consider subscribing for more driving related videos. So we're gonna get straight into the video, and the first thing that we are going to do is to look at the pre-test questions.
So you know the test, there is like three kind of sections in the driving test.
Yeah.
The first section is your pre-test questions.
Yeah.
So that's when your examiner asks you some questions about the vehicle, and then driving, that's the main one, and then maneuvers. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're gonna do about 2 or 3 maneuvers during this mock test.
Yeah.
But otherwise, when we are driving down the road and I'm not giving you directions, where are you supposed to go?
Just follow the road rules.
Follow the road, yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe follow the signs, or follow the road markings.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not gonna tell you everything. Sometimes you might have to be the one to figure out where you need to go.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Any questions before we start?
No.
Okay. So when you're ready, I'll get you. Can you show me how you do the front washes, please?
Front washes.
Okay, and do you know how to do the back ones?
Yeah. It's
Alright, that's fine. Headlights and high beams.
this one is high beam, and then headlight. Oh, sorry. Headlights. These ones. Yeah.
So first do the headlights, and then high beams.
High beams.
How do you turn on the high beams so that they stay on?
I'm actually not too sure now.
So you push it the opposite side?
This side?
Is the blue light on?
No, it's not.
Do you have the headlights on?
Yeah, I do.
You have the parking lights on, not the headlights. The headlight is the second one.
Oh, this one. Oh, okay.
Alright.
Yeah.
You can switch them off. And then high beams also, you take it off for permanent. So just pull it towards you.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, the first thing that I would notice here is that Eddie is kind of like, some of the questions, he's kind of like guessing them. He later on explained to me that he's not actually familiar with this vehicle because he's using his dad's car. He's been doing most of his driving in his mom's car. So it's important that if you are going for your driving test, that you drive a car that you are familiar with. So, for example, if you've been doing lessons in your instructor's car, just make sure that you do your driving test in that vehicle, because it actually helps you a little bit to relax, and when your driving examiners ask you questions about the car, you're not gonna struggle.
And then how do you adjust your side mirrors? Just tell me, you don't need to do it.
Side mirrors, I have the
Can you actually move them?
Oh no, this one's the steering wheel one.
So usually side
it's
mirrors
here.
with
It's
buttons
here.
on the side.
Yeah, the button's here.
So in this situation, because I actually had to assist Eddie a little bit with finding where to adjust the mirrors, this is the non-critical driving error.
Alright, so that's all the questions that I'm gonna ask you.
Yeah, I've never been asked those ones before.
When you're ready, move off.
Now, one of the things that I can't really fault here is the way that Eddie exited the car park. He did a very good job. He just took his time. He just was doing all the observations. So, well done. Now this is Logan driving test center, but we did this mock driving test on a Sunday, which means that the test center was actually closed and we had to park in a nearby car park, which is probably, it's very similar to what actually happens when someone go for their driving test at Logan. But where Eddie parked here, it's actually slightly different to where they normally start the actual driving test. You're still gonna be parked in the car park and you're gonna still have to get out of the car park if you are doing your driving test at Logan Driving Test Center. One thing I liked here is as you go out of this car park, you can see that there is a sign which says that one way, and Eddie recognized this and he actually indicates left and turn left. So this goes to show that Eddie is actually reading signs and he knows where he's supposed to go.
At the end, we can turn left.
When turning left, it's very important that we position the vehicle on the left-hand side, and Eddie does a good job here and he positions the car on the left-hand side. And also you can see how good he's carrying out his observations before turning left.
Traffic lights, turn right. You can use the far right lane to turn right at the traffic lights.
At this set of traffic lights, Eddie does well to position the vehicle in the right lane. But the problem here is that when he came to a stop, he actually moved too far forwards, and this is a non-critical driving error. You're actually gonna see that this mistake is gonna keep repeating many times during this mock test. Another thing that Eddie does very well here is that when you are turning right and there are two lanes which are turning right, it's important that we stay in the lane that we are in as we turn. So Eddie here does very well, and he stays in his lane. He doesn't kind of like veer off and end up in the left lane. He does a good right turn. So here also Eddie makes the same mistake again. When he comes to a complete stop at this set of traffic lights, he stops with the front of the vehicle over the solid white line, which is a non-critical driving error.
At the next set of traffic lights, turn right.
When turning right at this set of traffic lights, you can see that Eddie is planning ahead. He puts on his right signal right on time, and he slows down right on time, but again he makes a non-critical driving error because the front of the vehicle is over the solid white line. One of the things that I noticed that Eddie is doing, which most people actually don't do, is he is scanning through the traffic lights when going through, which is actually very good because sometimes there are people who run red lights, and if someone runs a red light, Eddie will actually see it and be able to react because he's not just rushing, he's scanning through that traffic light to make sure that it's actually safe for him to turn.
And then I'm gonna ask you to pull over on the left.
Now here Eddie is pulling over on the left, but he makes an uncritical driving error because as he's pulling over, the left-hand side of the vehicle actually it touches the leaves. When pulling over, it's important that we choose a place which is safe to pull over. It doesn't mean that when the examiner say pull over, you should just pull over straight away. You need to make sure you choose a safe place to stop.
Okay. So whenever you're ready, you can turn around the car.
For me personally, when it comes to this mock driving tests, my favorite part was actually this 3.10 that Eddie did. He's driving a Land Cruiser, and if you know a Land Cruiser, it's actually probably the biggest SUV out there, and the way Eddie does this 3.10 is just exceptional. He does a very good job. He carries out all his observations. The speed is on point, and basically there's no mistakes. Eddie does not make any mistake when doing this 3.10. This was my favorite part of the mock test.
And then 10 left. Take the first road on your right.
Another thing that Eddie is actually doing exceptionally well here is the way that he's doing his turns. You can see the way he's turning left, the way he's turning right. He's not rushing, he's just basically taking his time, which is what we are supposed to do when we are driving. We are supposed to like slow down before the turn and make sure that when we are turning, we position the vehicle properly before and after the turn. And Eddie is actually demonstrating good vehicle controls when he's doing his turns here. I actually felt completely safe in the car when I was with Eddie, and the way he drove throughout this mock test, it was just a nice, safe drive. Another thing that Eddie does exceptionally well is his speed management. He just manages the speed very well. He did not go over the speed limit. I think he did go over the speed limit once during this mock test. I think once he went to 41, but he quickly reacted. Otherwise, his speed management was right on point throughout this mock test, and he did not make any critical driving error related to speed.
At the traffic lights, 10 left.
At this set of traffic lights, Eddie does well to choose the correct lane before turning left, but again he makes that same mistake. The vehicle is over the solid white line, and this is again an uncritical driving error.
The next set of traffic, not this set of traffic lights, the one after that, 10 left.
At this slip lane, you can see that there is a pedestrian crossing, which means that we have to give way to any pedestrian who might be crossing. And Eddie does very well here at this intersection. He puts on his left indicator on time, he slows down on time, he carries out all the observations properly, and basically he does this turn very well. I actually didn't tell Eddie to do the first lane change because there is a sign which shows that there is a bus lane ahead, and Eddie does very well here because he saw the sign and he changes to the middle lane, which is what he's supposed to do.
When safe to do so, change to the right lane. Yeah, so this lane is okay. The next set of traffic lights, turn right.
So here I've asked Eddie to turn right at the traffic lights, and he does well because he actually goes into the right lane, but he makes the same mistake again because the front of the vehicle is over the solid white line. Now what happens at this time? Because Eddie has been doing this mistake repeatedly, what actually happens, this leads to what we call a specific repeated driving error, which means that if this was actually a driving test, Eddie will not pass the test. So it's important that when we are driving, we have to stop the vehicle behind the solid white line. Now, if you remember at the start of the driving test, Eddie said that he has not driven this vehicle before because he's actually using his dad's car, and this is a big car, which means that it's actually hard to judge the distance. So this is actually why he keeps repeating this mistake over and over again, which is why it's always recommended that when you are doing your driving test, you do the driving test in the vehicle that you are familiar with, or maybe do the driving test in a bit of a smaller car, which will help you to, like, when you're stopping or when you're parking or when you're turning. Like when you're doing your driving test in a small car, it actually helps a little bit. Otherwise, use the car that you are familiar with.
second road on your left, so that road there.
So here also Eddie is showing that he's very good at turns because he carries out observations before turning. He positions the vehicle correctly before turning left and before turning right. And you can see that he actually checks the left hand side mirror before turning left, which is good because there could be maybe like a bicycle in the blind spot.
And then use the street on your right to make a U-turn.
Now here Eddie makes a driving error of not positioning the vehicle properly before doing a U-turn. So when we are doing a U-turn and we are using the street on the right to do a U-turn, we have to actually position the vehicle in the middle of the intersection the same way we position the vehicle when doing a right turn. But Eddie actually positioned the vehicle quite close to the curb, which is a non-critical driving error.
End of the road, turn right. At the giveaway sign, turn left, and then at the traffic lights, turn right.
Now, this is a situation whereby some examiners will actually fail someone for doing what Eddie did here. So what happens here is that it's kind of like a combination of turns. So we are going left and then we are going right. It's a little bit of a tricky turn, and I think a lot of people will actually get confused here, and I think a lot of time the driving examiner might not necessarily bring people here, but of course we want to make sure that we are ready for anything. But here what Eddie did is that he positioned the vehicle properly to turn right, but the traffic light was green and he kind of like hesitates whether to go or not, and he ends up going through a amber light which eventually turns red before he was actually on the other side of the traffic lights. So some examiners might mark him down for this. Some examiners might give him a critical driving error for this, because technically when he got to the other side of the traffic lights was already red, and this was caused by the hesitation. If he hadn't hesitated, he would have gotten through the traffic lights while it was still amber. But this is a situation whereby an examiner will have to decide whether to give him a critical error or a non-critical error. In this case, for me personally, I thought it was a non-critical driving error.
And then go right at the traffic lights.
At this set of traffic lights, you can see that I told Eddie to go right, and there are two lanes which can go right. So when there are two lanes which can go right, you are actually free to choose whichever lane you want to use to turn right. So you can either use the second from the right lane or you can use the far right lane, and Eddie chose to use the second from the right lane, which is fine, and he actually stops at the correct distance from the vehicle in front of him. This is a situation whereby if your driving examiner does not give you any specific directions, you are supposed to follow the road markings. So in this case, we are in a lane which shows that we have to go left, and Eddie does well to indicate left, and he does a left turn, which is very good.
This intersection, go right.
Another thing that Eddie does well here is the way he deals with this crossroad. So there is a pedestrian crossing before the crossroad, so he carries out his observations, and after that he goes forward and he makes a complete stop. And then you can see that there is a car coming from the right, and then there is a car coming from the other side of the road, which means that we actually have to give way to both sides because we are going right, we are crossing oncoming traffic, so we have to actually give way to oncoming traffic, and we have to give way to cars on the main street. So Eddie does very well here because you can actually see that he gives way, and yeah, well done.
The roundabout, make a U-turn.
When making a U-turn at roundabouts, we use the right indicator entering the roundabout, and also we give way to vehicles inside the roundabout, and Eddie here also does a very good U-turn at this roundabout. One of the other things to notice about Eddie's driving here is the way that he's driving in this high activity area. So these areas, usually there's a lot of pedestrian walking around, and it's important that we look out for anything that we may have to react to, and you can see that Eddie is actually doing just that. He's carrying out observations, which is very good to see. Also, the speed limit here is 40 kilometers per hour, and Eddie is actually doing a good job, and he's managing the speed very well.
At the end of this road, turn right.
This intersection is actually a quite tricky intersection, but Eddie dealt with it very well.
At the roundabout, go straight.
At this roundabout, I asked Eddie to go straight, and you can see how well he looks around, and also he uses the correct indicator when he exits the roundabout.
take the road on your left coming up. So 10 left and then 10 left again.
Yep.
So here we've come to Logan railway crossing. This is a crossing at Woodridge, and this crossing, a lot of people failed their driving test at this crossing here, and I like how Eddie dealt with this crossing. He carries out his observations. He didn't block the railway crossing, which is good to see. The only mistake that I will say that Eddie made here at this turn is that, again, because he's not very familiar with this vehicle, he positions the vehicle a little bit too far forwards. I was actually kind of like worried that the front was maybe like in the way of the truck, but it was still okay.
Take the first road on your right. And then pull over on the left. You could go a little bit more forward. Okay, that's fine. Okay, you can put the car in park. Okay, so when you're ready, you can reverse the car in a straight line.
Eddie pulls over very well here when he was stopping, and also when he was doing this straight line reverse, he does a good job. So he carries out his observations before reversing, and you can actually see that he's looking at the rear when he's doing the reverse, and he's carrying out all the observations, which is good to see when doing this type of maneuver.
Alright, that will do.
Yep.
And then turn around the car when you're ready.
I asked Eddie to do a U-turn when he finished doing this straight line reverse, and as you can see, he actually does a very good job, and he carried out all the observations that he needs to carry out, and he does a good U-turn.
At the end of the road, turn right.
This road is 40 kilometers per hour, and Eddie was actually managing the speed very well. The only thing I would point out here is that if the speed is 40 kilometers per hour and you are doing a driving test, it's not recommended to do exactly 40 because it's really very easy to go over the limit. So Eddie was very good with the way he managed the speed, even though he was actually driving at exactly 40 kilometers per hour. But at one point, he went to 41 kilometers per hour, but he quickly reacted and brought it back below 40, which was good. It's really not recommended to drive exactly at the limit. It's best maybe to drive maybe 2-3 kilometers per hour under the limit, just in case maybe you accidentally like push the accelerator a little bit too hard, which might result in the speed going over. Always just stay slightly under.
At the traffic lights, you can follow the road straight.
So you can see that the left lane is ending here, and Eddie actually did very well because he reacted. So he does a good match, he carries out his observations, basically well done.
So I'm gonna get you to turn right. Turn right. And then if you just wanna find a space to park somewhere on the outside, so you can just park, pull over on the left somewhere here. Maybe reverse a little bit. Alright, that'll do.
So here we are returning back to the driving test center. So if this was an actual test, the driving examiner will get Eddie to park in the car park. But because this is on Sunday and the test center is closed, we are actually going to pull over on the left, and we are going to be talking about what Eddie did during this drive. So Eddie actually drove very well. I think his driving was very good. So even though he didn't get to pass this mock driving test, test because of doing a repeated driving error. I think his driving is actually up to the standard, and he should actually be able to pass his actual practical driving test without too much problems. So we are going to go into feedback of the mock test, and thank you guys for watching this video. If you enjoyed watching this video, you can give the video a thumbs up, and if you are doing a practical driving test, I wish you the best of luck. See you in the next video.
All right, I'm gonna go through this.
Yeah. Okay.
How do you think you went with this?
I reckon I did make a few mistakes.
What mistakes?
When at the light to turn yellow, I didn't see it. It was like green, and I decided to go, and it turned yellow midway. Well, not really midway. It sort of turned yellow when I put my foot on the gas. I think with that, the one where we used the right street to do a U-turn, I think that was one.
Have you done that U-turn before?
I've never done that one before, when we
Okay.
used the other street.
Yeah.
Or 3-point turns, I've never done those before either.
Okay. Yeah. Not too bad. Not too bad. But you have something called. So you didn't actually, technically you didn't make any critical error, okay? That one, yes, that green light where it changed to amber, that's very close.
Yeah, I saw it.
You'll be really lucky to get away with that, because what happened there was when you actually, the only reason I didn't mark it as a critical is a little bit of a tricky intersection.
Yeah.
And usually most of the time examiners might not take you there because it's really difficult. Okay, because you have to turn left and quickly go into the right lane and then turn
because
around.
half my car was in the left lane, and it was
So that's okay. You do what you did, but the problem is when you coming there, you should be looking far ahead and seeing what's going on. Because when you turned into that right lane, the light was actually green. So which means you should have kept going.
Yeah. Okay.
But then you delayed, you didn't see it, and then by the time you saw it, you started moving and you changed to amber, and we kind of got lucky. We just in time, because you need to get to the other side while the light is still amber.
Yeah.
It's very close. I just marked it saying unnecessary stopping at the green light when safe to turn right.
Yeah.
That one they just needed to keep going without stopping.
Yeah. Okay.
Because it was green by the time we got into the right lane.
Yeah. Because I was more focused on like the actual lane than the light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got something called a specific repeated driving error though.
Yeah.
So at the traffic lights, where are you supposed to stop the vehicle?
At the front, at the line. You're supposed to stop your wheel at the line.
The wheels or the car? The front of the car?
The front of the car.
Yeah. So you are stopping every time you're stopping with the front of the car over the line.
Oh, okay.
And we kept doing that. We did that like about 4-5 times. So this is actually, it's not a critical, but it's something called a specific repeated driving error, which means it's actually fail as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So if you didn't do that, you would have passed this mock test. But because you kept stopping over the line every time, that is a specific repeated driving error.
Yep, okay.
Okay. So just make sure when you're going to turn or you're going to stop at the traffic lights, you need to really remember the front of the car.
The line.
Yeah, so your number plate, it has to be behind the line.
Yeah, okay.
Once the wheels, if the wheels are over the line, that is actually a critical driving error.
Yeah.
So if the tires are over the line, critical.
Yeah.
But if it's just the bonnet of the car, most of the time you just get a minor mistake.
Okay.
Yeah, but because you kept doing that a lot of times, yeah. Some other minor mistakes is things like you need to know how to adjust your mirrors.
Yeah.
Okay.
Main thing is, this car's my dad's and I don't really drive it often.
Oh, okay.
Because my past 2 tests I've been using my mum's car.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm more familiar with
familiar with that car.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Is that the one you're using for your next test?
Yeah.
Your mom's car?
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe use the one you're familiar with. Because maybe that explains why you were putting it off at the line all the time.
Yeah.
U-turn to the right.
Yeah.
So the position before. So this is the intersection. So when we're turning right, do we position here or we position here when we are turning right?
Here.
So we position here, because if we position here, we're gonna be blocking traffic going straight.
Yeah.
So this is a position for the U-turn. But for you pulled over, you stopped on the left. You're not supposed to stop on the left.
Oh, okay.
You're supposed to position here, and then usually you go forward to give yourself some space. You go into that road, go like that, the way you did it. So you did this correct. So your U-turn was okay, but the position before, a little bit here, and also your position after the U-turn, you went a little bit too wide like that.
Oh, yeah.
You have to keep left.
Yeah.
So when you turn, go, and then here indicate left. So left indicator, right indicator here, right indicator, right, left, and then position after the U-turn, keeping left. Okay. So you got 2 minors for the position before the U-turn, and also the position after the U-turn.
So that's 2 minus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I marked you down as well for confusing indicator. So what this means is, you see, like if you are stopped on the left and you have a right indicator on, what are you telling the person behind you?
That you're gonna turn right.
You're telling them that you're going, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
And then they're gonna hold back.
Oh, yeah, that happens there.
When you were doing the U-turn. So that car behind, they were confused.
Yeah.
So what do you think you should have done there?
I should have just left light or just no light on the road.
So maybe left or maybe remove it because you had already stopped on the left.
Yeah.
So don't put it on if the person is coming. So it's just a confusing indicator, that's all.
Yeah.
Stop sign. Stop over the line.
Yeah.
So again, it's just understanding the length, the length of the vehicle.
Yeah.
Pulling over on the left, you removed the indicator before stopping fully. So you indicated left and you moved a little bit and you removed it and you kept moving. You have to leave that indicator on for the duration of the maneuver. So you indicate, stop, and then remove it.
Yeah, okay.
Also, you stop too far, I believe, from the curb. So too far from the curb.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah, so that's, and then that last one, the unnecessary stopping at the green light when safe to turn right.
Yeah.
Any questions?
So pretty much, if I knew like the distance of my front car and stopping,
if you knew the distance,
then I most likely would have passed.
You would have passed, because it was safe. There was a time though, like when you were doing like a driving test, or you're doing even driving, and you're putting the speed to 40, and you're driving at 40, exactly 40. Like it's very risky.
Yeah.
You have to make sure don't drive at 40. And
keep it like 30.
Because you actually went to 41 and you corrected it immediately. That's very risky, and you wouldn't want to do that on the test. Just keep it around 37, 38. When you see it going 40, just drop it a little bit. Because if it goes 41, 42, 43, the examiner has no option but to fail you. Anyway, that's yours. Any questions?
No, I think that's all.
Okay. Are you gonna drive? Oh, your mom is here.
Yeah, she just got here.